Alright, Shalom Akim. I like to say Kal Halayim, Yahweh Ba'Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'Hashem Rakakwadash, double honors the apostles and elders of Great Millstone at Rulewell. Peace and salutation to the Akim around the world that pushes truth to the four corners of the earth. Right, this is your Abba from GMS Trinidad East Camp. I heard the apostles talking about this sometime, about the slave Bible that they used to use. You know, I say I'll go through it a little bit. Right, to say why Bibles given to slaves omitted most of the Old Testament, right? But this is, you see how there's, you used to talk about, oh, the Bible is the white man's book. No, this is just this is our book, but they used to use our book to, you know, to have us in that docile state of mind that we wasn't in slavery, right? And that's why they made like an altered version of it, so that so that we will be able to slack here, so that we will, you know, to have us in that state of mind. Right. I'll go to our scripture. You say First Maccabees, I think it's 3:48. It say, and laid open the book of the law, and the book of the law is what the scriptures, right? It say, wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their image, because that is what they was trying to do even back in the time of the Greeks, right? In time of the Greeks, they was trying to take our book and alter it and have us follow that, because they knew that Israel in our spirit, we just cling to that particular book, right? And I'll give an example now. You see, like how they say it was how they say that it was omitted, right? It has certain things even in these books, like when you watch these other books and so forth, they make certain what changes to it, and certain certain beliefs don't even use the Old Testament. They just use what the New Testament, or the parts that are convenient, you understand, for what it is they're trying to push. So they do it now in different ways, but the concept of it is to what? Is to mentally enslave. And that is what Christianity does today. Christianity is mental enslavery. Enslavement, however, is the correct way to say it. All right, it says why Bibles given to slaves omitted most of the Old Testament. It says the so-called slave Bible told of Joseph's enslavement, but left out the part where Moses led the Israelites to freedom. Right, so they use what they want and they take out what they want, and even today they just use what they want and ignore what they want. Right? You say when slaves were legal, its proponents often justified it with the Bible. It say specifically a verse that tells servants to obey their masters. You understand? Because spiritually this book does affect us, and they know that. They just study us, right? It said there were also a lot of verses that abolitionists fine, look up that word. Abolition, the act of officially ending or stopping something. It's the act of abolishing something. Abolitionists, okay. That abolitionists could and did use to argue against slavery. It said, but you wouldn't find those in the heavily redacted slave Bible. It said most of the Old Testament is missing, and only about half of the New Testament remains. It said the reason, so that the enslaved, well, we know is Hebrew people, right? We know they just dwelled in the land of West Africa, but originally they came from Jerusalem when they fled persecution in 70 AD, right? But I'll read it verbatim. It says, so that the enslaved Africans of the Caribbean islands of Jamaica, Barbados, and Antigua, and we know it had other islands like here in Trinidad, couldn't read or be read anything that might incite them to rebel. So it was to keep them in what? A docile state. like I said, like the modern day Christianity. They will teach you to love your enemies. You understand? And the same so-called white people who does read the same scriptures and does teach you to love your enemies, they don't love you. And they just show you that they don't love you by the things that they do to us. They poison us. They constantly afflict us. You understand? So they train you to be in a simple state of mind while they don't even practice what they preach. And Jakes don't even pick up on these things. You understand? They just use these doctrines to train us to be in a humble state of mind while they could do us whatever they feel like. Which is the same thing they used to do back in slavery. Teach the slaves you had to obey the masters, so when they're getting whipped, they'll be cool about it because in their mind it's justified. Right? He said the slave Bible was actually titled Parts of the Bible, of the Holy Bible, selected for the use of the Negro slaves in the British West Indian Islands. They say it's not clear who exactly directed these changes. They say British planters in the Caribbean had long been wary of missionaries and could have demanded that they only teach enslaved people certain parts of the Bible. But some missionaries may have also believed that it was only appropriate to teach enslaved people excerpts, right, that reinforce their enslaved status. You understand? They used to reinforce the enslaved status, to make them be slaves and make them be comfortable about being slaves. Make them look at it like, that is their purpose of being born. But when we go in the scriptures and show Esau that we will have them as slaves according to the scriptures, as it written in many places and also in Revelations, you see, he that led into captivity shall go into captivity. When we come out and teach them that they're going to be our slaves to come, they will say we are a hate group. But they used to use our Bible to tell us to be good slaves. You understand? They say whoever the slave Bible's editors were, they're really highlighting portions that would instill obedience, says Anthony Schmidt, I believe that's how his name pronounced. Is a curator at Washington D.C. Museum of the Bible, which has a copy of the slave Bible on display. It said there are only 2 other known copies. It said the first slave Bible was published in 1807, 2 years after the Haitian Revolution ended, right? It say that revolution was the only slave revolution in history in which enslaved people successfully drove out their European oppressors to form a new nation, and it increased American and European paranoia that the people they oppress would one day rise up against them. Right? That is one of the methods they use to keep the slaves in that state of mind so that they would never rise up against them. That's why the scriptures talk about, that's why he's saying in the word is talk about mental slavery. You understand? Mental slavery is a very powerful thing. It said the Haitian Revolution could have been a motivation for publishing a Bible without parts where Moses tells the Pharaoh to let my people go. It said missionaries and planters may have taught that Christianity, at least certain parts of it, would protect against revolutions by teaching enslaved people to respect their masters. Right? And like I read in Maccabees, this is something that they wanted to do for a really long time. You see, in this context, Smith says the British may have taught that teaching enslaved people biblical lesson about obedience and accepting one's fate would help them be better slaves. And they have to pay for this. They have to pay for this. You understand? For using the Lord's word against his people. They have to pay for this. I'll just read this little part left here. It said the slave Bible doesn't include Moses leading the Israelites to freedom, but it does include Joseph's enslavement in Egypt. Because that's the mindset that was trying to push. That being a slave is okay. You know, sometimes the Lord is bringing you into slavery and, you know, you're right to be a slave. But when they teach it, like I say, when they teach it to us, it's cool. When we teach it to them and let them know that they're going to be our slaves in the kingdom to come, we're a hate group. We're preaching hate. This, that, and the other. Right? They say in the US, some sermons aimed at enslaved people portrayed Joseph as someone who accepts his lot in life. They say keeps his faith in God and in the end is rewarded for it. Schmidt says, it said a slave Bible may have wanted to impart a similar lesson to its audience. So really and truly, that is what the slave Bible was created for. To keep them in a state of mind where they will just be obedient, mindless puppets, taking whatever it is Esau did to them. And the kind of thing that Esau did to them was terrible, because they did what? They feed the children to alligators. They raped the wives. They raped the slaves' wives. Sometimes they rape the men. Sometimes, you know, when you run away, they will send dogs to chew you up. Sometimes they will tie you to horses and split you in pieces. They did a lot of things to us. And they tried to they use our book to justify this wickedness. A special version of our book to justify this wickedness. And even today, the wicked of this world still use our book to justify the wickedness that they just push in the society. And they will have to pay for that. You know, let's say I'll do a small touch on it. I never actually did anything pertaining to the slave Bible before. I won't read the whole thing, like I said. Have a little bit more. But I'll put the link in the description, so anybody who wants to go through it, you know, could always go through it. They could always look for alternatives. You know, I hope it was edifying in some way. And there's also to show these foolish people out here that the scriptures are our book. You understand? This is our book. The heathens just used to use it to try to use us and control us, but this book is for us. But in these times, it's only for those who could understand, because for the ones who don't understand, they will just have it packed up on the shelf collecting dust. Or even if they read it, they wouldn't be able to comprehend and do the things that are written therein. Anyway, with that, I say shalom.